Welcome back to another One Piece spoilers video today. I'm your host Malik. We'll be taking down the latest spoilers from chapter 1183 titled Good Day Mermaid. Never thought I'd say that phrase in a One Piece chapter, but there it is. One Good Day Mermaid. So I'm Malik. Please, for me, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Really helps me out against the algorithm. And so let's break it down. And so the chapter starts off, we immediately see the Straw Hats basically get ready for their respective fights in this arc. We see Sanji head over to the village, the giant village, where Zaza, the rain god, remember Sanji, he's heading over to Zaza, the rain god. He is going to fight, killing him in round 2 of the Elbaf Battle Royale. And we are seeing this fight go down, and so Sanji's heading over there. We then follow up to the continuation of Loki and Ragnar's fight against the Great One, the Devil Man, the King of the World, Saint Imu Narona. And Imu is basically going through the battle, and Imu in his old age is, remember, he's over 800 years old, at least 900 at the very least, is beginning to be nostalgic for his past. We know when he saw Ragnar, he was being sentimental. But in this chapter, he basically confirms another person. He says Nidhogg and Nika will both die just like Dozen. Who Dozen is, I don't know. We still haven't figured out all the key pieces in this final battle, but Dozen is one of the key players that Imu remembers. All right, could Dozen be a member of was the previous name of the Nidhogg fruit user? Unlikely, because Imu doesn't see individuals. He sees the powers. He sees Luffy as Nika or Joy Boy, and he sees Loki as Nidhogg. Okay, he doesn't really differentiate between the two. So Dozen is another person. All right. And we cut away to probably the biggest part of this chapter, the stuff involving Brook, because a Brook flashback starts. All right, yes, we are going back, another flashback. I'm going to make a video about this, but we just had a flashback talking about Harold, Rocks, Loki, and that flashback started at the back half of 1154 and ended at 1171, all right? To put that into perspective, the flashback with Harold and everything started in June of 2025. It wrapped up in January. Now, are we going to have another 15 page or 16 part flashback? Highly unlikely. But this probably will be here for at least a couple chapters trying to see exactly what happened, because Brook, all right, 20 years old. This is 70 years ago. Brook canonically is 90 years old. So he is... So this is about 30 years, this is about about a decade or so before his travel with the Rumbar Pirates. And we see Princess Shuri, the name Gunko goes by, and they are in I believe it's pronounced the Asperia Kingdom. Remember, Brook was once a battle convoy commander in the West Blue, okay? Now, Brook himself stated at the beginning when Gunko was remembering her past, she was remembering Brook saying, I wanted to be a pirate. And there's that. And so then we see Brook was the leader of a battle convoy, all right, in the Asperia Kingdom. One day, a gangster tried to attack the queen, but Brook defeated him and the syndicate, okay? So even back then, 70 years ago, Brook, Humming Sword Brook, Soul King Brook, was putting belt to asses on everybody, okay? Brook upscale, all right? Brook upscale. He's from the West Blue, all right? You know they've got some serious gangsters, all right? Don Marlin is from the West Blue. Capone Beige is from the West Blue. So Brook upscale agenda, put it out there, okay? Brook is not to be trifled with, all right? And we basically see Brook was a very famous in the kingdom, all right? He was very revered and beloved, but he was not as famous as the queen. Makes sense. Her name was Queen Candel, and she was the former leader of the defense convoy in the Asperia Kingdom. I'm probably going to guess the way this is looking up is that the queen was basically rising through the military ranks, basically similar to what happened to Kyros in Dressrosa. He rose the military ranks, fell in love with a member of the royal family, and that's how that happened. How this plays out, I don't know, but we're seeing this story play out with Brook and everything that's going on. We are seeing the story of Brook in his early years, because we can pretty much map out Brook's entire life at this point. He was born in the West Blue, trained as a musician, became leader of a battle convoy. Eventually what's going to happen is Princess Shuri is going to murder her father, the king, Brook's benefactor. And then, at some point, Brook is going to wind out to sea, meet Yorkie, form the Rumbar Pirates crew, set out to sea. presumably get wiped out by I think maybe it was the Rocks Pirates. We don't know who poisoned them. Another pirate group. And we see essentially Brook be there for 50 years before he gets picked up by Luffy and company. So this pretty much gives us we can now start to piece together Brook's entire life at this point, all right? 90 years old, born in the West Blue, it looks like the Asperia Kingdom. That's Brook's home island. And he essentially dealt with gangsters, rose the ranks to become a commander of a battle convoy, befriended the queen and the princess, and left a lasting impression on Gunko, because we know Gunko still remembers Brook to this day. Now, we don't know how exactly Gunko ended up in the Myanmar family. We don't know the circumstances of that. But Gunko effectively was basically made a member of the Gods Knights, and when Imu had essentially wiped her memories, but on a subconscious level, she remembered Brook, because remember, Gunko is a huge fan of Brook's Soul King music. So that leads me to believe, okay, so Gunko was a huge fan of Brook back in the day. That's a good thing. She still subconsciously remembers it. And when she was remembering more about her past with Brook, she basically told Brook to get away, to leave, to run away before Imu completely, took over and, possessed her body completely. So again, we don't know exactly how this plays out. We don't know how this flashback will go on, but I'm probably going to see, no more than probably 4 chapters, 5. We just ended the Herald one and Rox and everything. And that one was a weird case because we were there for following Rox's journey throughout most of it and then cutting back to Herald towards the back half of it. So again, that was one of the exception ones, but we just ended a, 6-month flashback in real time. So I don't think Oda's going to be here this long, but we'll probably see these guys again, probably in July-ish. We get back to the present story because again, this is probably going to take a few chapters to explain, okay, how did Princess Shuri, aka Gunko, ended up as a member of the Gods Knights, and what happened to the events that led her to murder her father. Now, we know a lot of things don't always happen the way they're said. We know Loki didn't actually kill Harold intentionally. He was forced to do it. We know the circumstances there. We know Garp and Roger didn't defeat Rox willingly. He was doing reverse. So I'm interested to see how this will play out in the story, how Oda's going to make it look like a very tragic and somber event. But again, I'm Malik. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm a small new channel, and any help goes a long way. God bless y'all. Have a wonderful day.